It's almost like a horror film, isn't it? Just when you thought it was safe to go back on the roads, they are back on the M25. And this time it's personal. It really does. It's just repeating itself. Deja vu, if you like. I am, of course, talking about Insulate Britain causing more travel chaos on our roads, back on the M25, despite that legally binding High Court injunction, meaning that they face fines or indeed jail. Many of them were jailed actually today for disrupting this major motorway and other roads. They were also on the roundabout at Old Street, causing huge disruption. There was a hospital right by it. You had pictures of an ambulance, lights on, needing to get to somebody in need. They could not get through. Let's find out why they choose to do this. This would be the 12th day of protest in just 4 weeks. Let's speak to Tracey Mallaghan, spokesperson for Insulate Britain. Tracey, good to have you with us. How long are we going to have to put up with this?
Until the government makes a meaningful statement that they're going to seriously address
Tracey,
over 8,000...
they're not listening to you. Tracey, they're not changing their policy because of this.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think there might be a delay on our Zoom. What did you say?
I was saying the government, its policy, it's been 4 weeks. Your 12th demonstration today, they are not changing policy. The only thing they're changing is how to make things easier for police to arrest you.
Oh, come on. That policing bill already had in the pipeworks that even one person couldn't protest. And I'm really quite surprised at the line you're taking, having been discussing the energy crisis, the end to universal credit and fuel poverty all night.
Well, I'm a mother, Tracey, I'm a mother as well. And today on the M25, there was one mother trying to take their daughter to school, and she couldn't do that. She described your protesters as selfish and disrupting her daughter's education.
It's really hard hearing this. You know, I hate the dilemma that I find myself in, but the reality of the situation is we have 4 to 5 years to get on with the job and doing what is necessary to lower our emissions. Our children's futures at stake. Our economy will fail. The NHS will fail. We'll face flooding. If we don't get on with this job, darling, our kids are in trouble. Don't you feel the worry of the climate crisis and the energy crisis I do?
I feel the worry, but I also feel the worry for people trying to see loved ones, people trying to live their lives, people who might not have the same amount of money as your demonstrators have. They seem to me to be white, middle-class people who have time. You're not going to see black people protesting the way you guys are protesting. Black people who have a very limited income, who are working class doing what you're doing because they have to live their daily lives. They don't have the luxury of all the money in the world, which allows them to go onto the roads the way you're doing and protest the way you've been protesting.
This is terrible. Stop it. I'm a disabled mum.
It's the truth, though. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Other people. It's not your truth, is it? You're not worried about the short term. You're quite comfy in the short term. You're not genuine.
Well, Tracey, let's not make this personal because you know nothing about my life. Let's talk about the issue at hand, which is why you continue to cause disruption for everyday people who are living their lives, trying to get to work. You've had doctors unable to go and surgeons unable to go and operate on people because of the disruption that you're causing.
Really awful, isn't it? And what we face if our government doesn't get on with. Did you invite me on to talk or to just shout at me?
I'm not shouting.
Would you like?
I'm not shouting. I take offence to that. I'm not shouting. I've asked you very fair questions and I'm giving you the chance to answer.
You're not giving me the chance to answer, and I would like to, because this is really serious, right? I'm out there for all of our children, and I'm really cross that the media are being so irresponsible and spinning it this way. You keep talking about the what and not the why we are in the road. Our government is behaving treasonously.
Tracey, the media spinning it. At the Blackwall Tunnel this week, a lorry driver started driving, not in any speedy way, obviously nobody was injured in this, but started moving his truck forward slowly against your protesters. That's not any media spin. That's an everyday person reacting, and we're just reporting on that.
You're absolutely right? It's awful. We're all in this horrible dilemma and people's tempers are getting frayed. How frayed will they be when our food starts getting short, right? We need to get on the same page. We need to prepare. Even Professor James Woodenhead earlier said we're in this mess because our government have failed to prepare for decades.
Tracey, but why? Why target everyday people who are already struggling, people who are just trying to get by?
Because the only way to break the media and government deadlock in the truth is to disrupt enough normal people that media has to report on what we're doing. You don't really want me on here
Tracy,
tonight.
you do realise, you're losing sympathy. You're losing sympathy. Many people were already on board. Many people have seen the wildfires, the bushfires, the crazy weather we've been having. We're on board. We're recycling in a way we hadn't recycled before. We're getting rid of plastic in a way we haven't done before. We've got the government preparing for COP26. Things are being done. But your actions and the way you're disrupting everyday people's lives, it just means that you are losing the sympathy that you were really trying to grave. So much work has been done previously with Extinction Rebellion. So much work had been done. You got people on side. Tracy, I'm afraid you're losing them now.
Oh, that's such a ridiculous thing. Do you really think that anybody serious about the crisis that we're in, who really understands the mess that we're in, is now going to go, and I'm not going to do it anymore? That's cutting off your nose to spite your face, isn't it?
Tracy,
and we're not like that.
Tracy,
people better than that if they get the truth. You're not doing your
what
listeners any favours.
What I'm saying is, if you are a representation of somebody who is passionate about climate change, passionate to make sure people take this seriously, you're losing them. These are people who will not listen to you. And you've got very important messages to say. You've got important messages to say, but the way you're doing it, people are very fine with protesting. People are not fine with people breaking the law.
The way the media refuses to talk about it is part of the problem here. You don't want to talk about the why. Let's talk about why 8,000 people are going to die this winter.
Why not go for China? Why not go to China and protest on their streets?
Everyone's doing it. That's so ridiculous.
Ridiculous. They are one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. They're one of the biggest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. Why not? The damage that they cause to the environment is far more than the UK. Why not go there and protest?
That's ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous?
It is not China's job to stop people dying of fuel poverty in Britain. That is fully on the British government. You could certainly argue that their emissions, the pollution that they're causing, which is huge, as you know, Tracy, is actually affecting many parts of the world, not just the UK. Why not target them? Because you know what you do if you go and protest the way you're doing in China, the way you're doing it here. That's so ridiculous. Another really ridiculous reason for saying that,
Tracy, instead of saying the arguments that I'm putting to you are ridiculous, why not give me a tangible answer?
Well, to the China response, if you'll let me get to the end, that really is, oh, but mum, everybody else is doing it. Now, it is true, we started the Industrial Revolution. If we start leading the way properly, if we start showing how what needs to be done and it gets done properly, countries like China will follow us. What we're doing at the moment is passing the buck, and it is not China's fault or responsibility to stop British people dying from the choice of heating or eating, is it? Whose fault is that? Who's responsible for all those deaths, Christina? Sorry, Claudia.
No, that's fine, Tracy. Can I ask, how long is this going to continue for? How worried should people on their daily commute, trying to get to work, trying to get their children to school, trying to see loved ones, how long is their day under threat of being disrupted by Insulate Britain?
Few of us will have to keep facing short-term disruption until our government stops failing to prepare to plan, stops putting 8,000 of us at the threat of death from horrible conditions, right? It's cruel, malnutrition and cold in the 6th richest nation on the planet. That's a disgrace. We need to get on with lowering our emissions. Tracy, you really could help, Claudia, by focusing on the why instead of the what. You're being part of the problem, not part of the solution, hon. Sure. It's really heartbreaking.
Okay, sure, yeah. Tracy. Can I put to you, why don't you start with your own members in terms of that fight against climate change, instead of trying to enforce us to do that? One of your members, Liam Norton, he's known to have a £360,000 flat with no roof or cavity wall insulation and poor heating control. Why don't you guys practice what you're preaching?
Right. So a chain is only as strong as the weakest link, isn't it?
No,
there's no point in...
Tracy, you are disrupting lives day after day. 12 protests already, and the people who are actually practicing this demonstrations, they're not even doing the thing that they're forcing everybody else to do. Do you not understand how ridiculous that sounds, Tracy?
Do you know how ridiculous it sounds when the people who have the responsibility to get on with the job are not doing anything? That is the problem here. Why are you trying to other people and find these silly arguments? You've got kids Don't you want us to address
Tracey,
the mess
these
that we
are valid questions to ask. You are devastating some people's lives. Did you hear that mother? Did you hear that mother this morning? She called you guys selfish. You're disrupting her daughter's education. This isn't me saying it, Tracey. This isn't the media. This is the very people that you're impacting, and your own group aren't even practicing what you're telling us to do.
The media chooses who to listen to and who to voice, right? You could also find lots of people who support it. There's a mum out there with cancer, 3 children, missed an appointment, supports the cause because she truly understands the climate crisis, the mess we're in, and she's able to emotionally connect with it.
She's not a fair representation of the people that there have been fights started. There are businesses who have rejected money that your group have tried to offer them for inconvenience. Then they said no, because this is not the right way to go about it. No one is debating over what you're saying, your cause, Tracey. Nobody is debating that. What people are angry about is the way you're doing this, because the government aren't changing. The policy isn't changing. So I ask you again, Tracey, how long are you going to continue to disrupt the lives of everyday people?
And I'll ask you, how can you be so blasé about our government not even doing this? That's your story.
Tracey, you're going to answer the question. Are you going to answer the question? Tracey, how long are you going to be doing this for?
Your kids' future. If they're not even doing this, everybody agrees we need insulation. But even when there are people sitting on the roads, we're not going to do it. And you're calling me ridiculous.
Tracey, how long are you going to continue doing this for? Is this ever going to come to an end?
Until Grant Snaps and the government make a meaningful statement.
When are you next doing this? When are you next doing this, Tracey? What road are you targeting next?
Be there. None of us want to be there, sweetheart. It's horrible.
So, Tracey, when are you next going to be protesting, and where?
I'm actually back at home. I've drawn the short straw of doing these interviews with people.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure if we didn't do this interview with you, Tracey, you'll then say that we're not covering this enough. We're giving you the chance to explain to people, and when you do eventually answer the question, you give people the chance to come to their own conclusion about what you're doing and why you're doing this. But I ask you again, Tracey, when are you doing this next, and on what road? Can we at least give our listeners a heads up so they can avoid those destinations?
You are being sold out by a treasonous government and a failing media. Okay. We are in a crisis and they're not addressing it. Ask yourselves, if they won't even get on with insulation, then what exactly are they doing for you and your kids?
Are you going to demonstrate again? Are you going to block another road? Are you going to glue yourselves to the road again?
You may be used to people not being steadfast and carrying through with what they say, but that's who we are. We're real people, drawing a line in the sand. We are being sold out and we are in civil resistance saying no more. Okay,
Tracey, I'll ask you again. When are you going to be protesting next, and where?
Come with me and get a scoop, Claudia.
Tracey Mallaghan, spokesperson for Insulate Britain. Thank you so much for talking to Talk Radio today. What did you make of that? Did Tracey Mallaghan answer any of the questions that you want to know as to why your day, your life has been disrupted by their actions? Tracey Mallaghan is saying she wants the government to act, but this has been 4 weeks, 12 protests so far. And the only act of the government has been to find tougher ways for police to act and throw them into jail. Let me know what you think. Is this the right thing to do, or do you want to stop, to see an end to the actions of Insulate Britain? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000, or tweet me at TalkRadio.
Online and on your smart TV.